like you might start the game looking like this, and then that's kind of whatever, right? Because front players can hit each other, but like the back players can't really touch each other at all.
Yeah.
Aim for the
but because you're rotating around the map, right? Like you're basically like you could look at like any kind of like this kind of formation. You basically want to maintain a Y as well as you can, because once you get the enemy punish, you can like create an L like this. So like basically you double lock the guy while the other guy is knocked down, and then if you knock this guy down and then the Potemkin has to get back in, you can just double lock him. But you always try to maintain this look of an L, because it's the way your formation doesn't get broken. Because what you don't want to do is create a T. Because like if you have a T, right, it's like your front player is sandwiched, right? Yeah. And then if he's knocked down, then they can just bully you, yeah.
They can cut you off from your teammate.
Yeah, so but like Y is like the safest you want to be aiming for, and you're trying to create L's all the time. So that's like the traditional style. You're playing like a regular front shooting, maybe melee also, but with like shooting back still, right? But if you're playing like a like double melee comp, right? Backs is also melee. What you actually want to do is do something like this. Like this is like it's kind of different, because you want to separate it so it's like a one-on-one. Yeah.
Also, if you're doing double front means it just doesn't matter. You just try to do one-on-ones.
Well, I mean, like so the back front, like the back melee suit has a hard time, getting into position, right? Because it can't really do anything. Yeah. Because you don't have the range, right? That's why, like if you actually knock down the front player, right? Like you could double lock. Right? I mean, which is, kind of the same, but you kind of play more closely. Then you kind of go back and forth, right? If you can get into that situation, you just want to create as much chaos as possible. But like an ideal is to just do this, to like because by doing this, right? Like let's say the Potemkin gets knocked down, yeah, and then the Soul just camps him, but he's like watching the Johnny player, yeah. So he's like avoiding shots, but he's like also waiting for the Potemkin to tech, right? During this whole time, the Kai front back so just runs them and tries to separate them. So they're basically fighting 2 1-on-1s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like the situation you want to create as 2 like front suits, or 2 melee suits actually. But otherwise, you're aiming for like the Y shape generally. You want to avoid the T's. That's when you overextend, you create the T, and that's bad. Because if he gets knocked down, like he has to get up, and then they could just both close in, kind of deal.
Yeah.
And then they get the like the back and forth if that happens, So I mean that's like the basic gist of it. And then like you will basically sometimes you might look like this because you're like trying to fight for positioning, right? And then as you're doing this, you're like just circling around the map nonstop. But then you basically want to maintain the Y formation most of the time. So like this is what your mini map should be looking like for the most part, right? Because when you're like there's a lot of times where there's like downtime in the game, right? You can look at the other target.
You're on the other end of the Y.
But like you want
What if you're the other end of the Y?
Is the Johnny player?
What? No. So like put Johnny behind Potemkin.
Yeah.
And like Soul and Kai are like the Y.
I mean, it's the same idea, right?
Here?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the same on both sides, though, because, like, it's the same, because you're just flipping it around, like, it's really no difference.
Because your Soul would move forward towards the Potemkin, right?
Well, I mean, how do I explain this? So, like, this is just, like, a general formation you're keeping, right? Because this is basically neutral you're trying to keep.
Yeah,
so, like, So the other team is trying to get into that formation too, right? So like, because like this doesn't really happen like this shape, because like you see how like these characters are closer to the walls. You don't really want that, right? So you're always like kind of rotating around the map as you're fighting.
You don't want to be at the corner.
And then because it's like you're fighting for center, this whole formation is just like you're spinning nonstop. Yeah. So the idea is just you want to get into the Y, because like if the front player chooses any side, right, the back player can just create the L because you're trying to transition from the Y to the L.
Yeah. You're both trying to focus.
You're trying to transition to the L shape. And then like, if whoever gets knocked down, in between this L exchange, the back player is like not that close, so it's not too bad. And then let's say, because like you can't like, for example, let's say you create the L, right, and then your front player loses, right? Like this player has a lot of distance to get to you, but like, and then he has to like go over, right? But then if he goes over, right, you create the T. You see what you see? Like this is what happens. So like, but then but the issue here is the back player runs this way, right? When the player is knocked down, then you fucked up the formation and just go like this, right?
So if my back player runs in that situation, they fucked up.
Yeah,
So
because like
okay.
They should have been taking advantage of our position.
So because the thing is like when this L formation happens, right? If you the front player loses,
Because
he runs forward because you're staying here, right? So text and you double team him, and the guy's like, because let's say the Potemkin loses, right? And then you just go like this.
Well, usually what happens. So let's say Soul's knocked down, Potemkin back. What usually happens is that like from what like I've played, so basically the Soul gets knocked down, and then both players double lock on the Kai.
Yeah, so do they do this though?
So
like,
maybe not like. Usually,
because you're thinking about the amount of time it can take. So like this will not happen, right? Because he's too far. So basically this is what happens. So let's say they move about the same speed. So you go from the L, right? And then Potemkin beats Soul is on the ground, right? So like you create the T if the Kai holds his ground, right? And you beat up the Potemkin, and then you both run after the Johnny. But let's say Soul player loses, right? And then Kai player like, oh no, right, runs this way.
I run because they're double locked,
And then they do but so the idea between this is that this is like a distance thing,
Yeah.
So the Johnny player is technically green locked. There's like because like like the map is like pretty big. So there's no way Johnny can red lock you because he's too far, right? You can red lock the Soul, Soul is knocked down. If they both move forward, let's say they move about the same speed, maybe back's a little less because you have less boost to move safely, right? Now, and then if you commit more boost to move, you can't fire because you land. When that time, Soul just takes and we beat out the Potemkin player.
You just get your boost and then.
Yeah, but like let's say they move like this, right? Like there's no way Johnny can like do this because there's too much space to cover. So they create the T by the Potemkin moving forward. But if the Kai player runs, right, then like from this position, it's like the back player can move forward, get closer in range with it because of the way that they cut through, right? Because you don't have to go like diagonal across the whole map. They just go to directly down to where like the Kai runs to, and then Potemkin could just run afterwards to create a double lock situation because he has more boost. He's the front player, right? And so Texan has to chase. But then by that time, Kai might have gotten knocked him down, and you just, you go back and forth, and then you beat up.
Okay, well, I mean, like the thing that I'm getting at it. So I'm the back player, or like I plan on being back player. So my the idea is like, so in the situation where my front player gets knocked down, I should, if I need to run away and I can't hold my ground, I should run away in the opposite direction of their back player.
Yeah, but then here's it's the corner.
Yeah, then you just.
Oh, no. I mean, okay. Opposite radial direction. I mean.
Yeah. I mean, you're basically moving, but the thing is like
I would, instead of moving down right, I would move.
You technically don't have to move. Like if you have this good formation, because let's say you don't move and they do this, right? They create the T on their own, and then you're technically only locked by the front player.
Like in my head, it's like I should be moving with. So if my teammate gets locked down, I should be moving based on where my teammate is, not based on where the opponents are.
Yeah, always. Yeah, because the front player has more boost and more firepower, and then the back player usually it's almost like guaranteed, right? Because the way the game is made. If you run away, you're getting further from the support. So, for example, like if the Kai runs in this case, right? you're moving into the red lock of the back player because he's moving down.
Yeah, so I'm doing his job for him.
Yeah,
Okay,
but if you just stay here, right? Like if they commit,
that's like the equivalent of going in with the life lead.
Yeah, but like if they move in like this, right, and you don't really move much from here because your front player is knocked down, right? Like this suit cannot commit because like he'll tech and then they'll run the formation, right?
Okay.
So and then front and then back suits usually can't beat front suits just based on pure numbers, right? The numbers just work out that way. And then there's like most of the time, like in a real competitive match, the front suit is like some OP suit or some good enough suit, A tier whatever, right? That like there's no way a back suit can beat it unless there's a big skill difference, right? But think about equal skill right now.
That's me though.
Yeah, so like no, but even just having good positioning changes a lot, right? Because if they do this, you just go after the front player, right? The back player can look at either or. He's kind of still pretty much safe, and then you can help double lock the front player in this case, right? And then you just go after the back player afterwards.